for me, entrepreneurship has always been the way.
Investing is important because it's the only way you are going to be able to get rich and wealthy for your family. We can close the wealth gap by working together.
Market Monday is the biggest investment show ever.
My life has literally changed since watching EYL.
When you can make people money and you can add value, they're going to be forever indebted to you.
And I promise you this year, I'm going to make y'all even more money.
Disclaimer, do your own research. Our content is intended to be used and must be used for informational purposes only. It's very important to do your own analysis before making any investment based on your own personal circumstances. You should take independent financial advice from a professional in connection with, or independently research and verify any information that you find on our show and wish to rely upon, whether for the purpose of making an investment decision or otherwise. Let's build our knowledge, our community, and our brokerage accounts. Love is love. Indeed. Love is love. We back,
Happy
man.
Monday.
Happy Monday. Happy Monday. It is a blistery Monday here in the Northeast. Whew, man.
A freezing one in Houston. My Lord.
It's cold in New York, God. Can't zone hard. Yeah, man, but we are here. We are here. The snow couldn't stop us. Thank God we are here, safe, blessed. Hopefully everybody who had to travel made it to their destination safely. Love is love, man. We back. How you feeling? Ian, how you feeling, man?
Amazing. Happy to be back. Happy Monday. Shout out to the pandas in chat. Shout out to the earners. Shotty, how you feeling? Feeling great. Glad to be back for real.
Good, man. Yeah, definitely blizzard conditions, but the show must go on. The show must go on. We got a lot to talk about, so we ain't gonna waste too much time. Do remember blackout this Wednesday at 9:00, new time this year, 9:00 Eastern Standard Time. We got a lot to talk about, man. There's so much going on in America right now that
Crazy.
We're gonna talk about ICE. We're gonna talk about all of that. We're gonna talk about all of that. There's a lot going on.
A lot to talk about.
So tune in for that. And then Thursday, we got a dope entrepreneur coming on Earn Your Leisure 6:00. And it was a conversation that we had a while ago, but putting it out. The little things in life that you make a lot of money on. And when you think about swimming, how many people actually think about, making swim products for women that are on their menstrual cycle? Would you think about that?
Niche. That's a unique niche.
$1 million industry, multi-million dollar industry.
Yep. Yeah.
Multi-million-dollar industry.
Always going to be needed.
So we met the person that actually invented, she actually holds the patent. She invented swim protection for that time of the month.
That's brilliant.
It really is.
There's entrepreneurs in every industry.
It really is.
Mm-hmm. And they're getting that patent key, so it won't be a whole bunch of little knockoffs. Well played. Ooh, what time?
6:00. 6:00 Eastern Standard Time on Thursday.
There are riches and niches, yo. Mm-hmm.
That is a fact.
The riches are in the niches. That is a fact, man.
Big fact.
All right. So yeah, we're gonna get into it. I actually have an EYL University call tomorrow. If you're in EYL University, check that out. EYL University, we back.
Amazing.
We got so much stuff lining up for this year for EYL University, man. If you're not in EYL University, you're missing a boat. But tomorrow, I'm doing my EYL University financial planning business call tomorrow. So make sure you tap in for that, 7:00 Eastern Standard Time.
Pull up.
Ian, any announcements?
Yeah, I want to shout out my dad for making his debut on HGTV this past weekend. Hey.
Oh, hey.
Proud of you.
In the chat.
Congratulations.
For real. And I'm doing something different this year in Stock Club. I'm releasing prices every week. So last night I put prices for 5 new companies in there. If I've made you money, please put yes in chat. If you want to join the greatest group of investors on the planet, go to ianinvest.com. So you never know. Have to guess where to get into the market. I love y'all. Let's have an amazing show.
Yeah, before we go on any further, man, shout out to the entire Nvidia team. I know everybody saw us pull up there last week, a very eventful week. I'm sure we'll talk about it, but just want to give a shout out to Tiffany, Lewis, Punja, Jess, everybody that helped us put that together. It was one of those moments, man. So I'm sure we'll talk about that in detail, but just shout out to them.
Yes, sir. Okay. What's the investing fact of the week?
I actually have four that I want to cover really quick. One about Costco. So I was doing my research on the plane ride after Nvidia. Researching Costco has been one of our picks for 4 years in Stock Club. But did you know that Costco has a 92.2% renewal rate in the United States of America and 89.7% worldwide? I thought that was fascinating. Number two, 12.7% of S&P stocks hit 52-week highs for the first time in over a year. Usually the SPX finishes higher 3 to 4 weeks after in every case. Troy, we talked about this before. Nvidia has supplanted Apple as TSM's top customer. Very interesting. And fourth, Nvidia has invested $2 billion into CoreWeave to build out a 5 gigawatt AI factory by 2030. So two are Nvidia related. One is Costco related, but I thought it was really fascinating that their renewal rate every year is around 92%. Definite buy, definitely amazing company. But if you want to know a fundamental reason why this company is doing so incredibly well, and I saw the post that you guys put up about gold being bought at Costco, but to have a renewal rate and a churn rate less than 8% at scale, I think is just absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, retention rate is incredible. I'm glad you brought up the CoreWeave story because it's been interesting over the past couple of weeks with CoreWeave, especially us being at HQ and listening to its purpose and talking about data centers and data center build out, understanding the prices for GPUs, but understanding that every hyperscaler will use it, but there are mid cap and small cap companies that will need to use data sets and data racks, and how CoreWeave will play a part in that. And so that's interesting. I think another thing is, when we talk about do the research, a funny thing came up in my research last week, which is why CoreWeave came to my attention before we even spoke about NVIDIA. But the president actually bought CoreWeave debt, right? So he bought debt sure did. Just like kind of sneaking through the night, and that research came up. Netflix was part of that implication. And is it a small amount of debt? Yes. But it's interesting, when you think about companies, why, and then you see a move like today with Jensen and Nvidia saying that they're investing another $2 billion in gigawatts for the data center outreach. Netflix was on that list. So watching those companies after hearing news like that is very key. I think one of my facts for the week, and I've had to say this, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing. But I've had to say this over and over. And this is something that we say all the time to each other, like, you never lose by taking profit.
For sure.
That is my investing fact of the week. You never lose by taking profit. Yes, sometimes you take profit and a company runs a little bit further. And sometimes you take profit and the company pulls back. But you never lose by taking money out. So please keep that in mind when you're watching a lot of these companies that you've invested in over the past 3 or 4 months hit their all-time high, hit gains that you didn't even expect. Take profit because it's okay. And even if it runs further, it's okay.
Robert Kiyosaki, it's okay. We'll talk about it later.
It's crazy. We brought him up last week, and then that post comes out. That was crazy.
Yes, sir. Hit the like button and share. We're gonna have a jam-packed episode, and we got a surprise for you. Towards the end of the episode, we got a surprise for you guys. Yeah, we got a lot to cover on this episode of Blackout. Biotech. Biotech Check-In. We haven't talked about biotech in a while, but in the age of AI, and I thought it was interesting at Nvidia when we spoke with some of the people at Nvidia. We had a couple panels that some of the employees spoke on, and probably the number one thing that was talked about was medical.
Healthcare. Yep.
Probably for like over 20 minutes, they had a detailed conversation about medical advancements and how their technology is going to change medicine as far as, hospital experiences and inpatient visits, doctors, different things of that nature. They gave us a whole blueprint of how, the medical industry will change because of artificial intelligence and their technology specifically, and the things that they were working on when it comes to the medical field. So that's one aspect of it. But, the biotech is a big industry. So what's the biotech check-in?
And I want to say off of that point, for those who think the Nvidia trade is done, I just want to be very clear, not just because I picked it and yada yada. Nvidia is like the BlackRock of AI. I will say that. We can talk about it more in detail, but given how much they're investing into the space and how they have their partnership structure, I think it's fascinating. But on the biotech side, these are three that you can write down. So you have the ETF side, IBB, great return. So if you don't want to have to guess which ones to invest in, you can just invest in a basket of them. Number two, Gilead. Gilead Sciences is an incredible company, has been through and through. And number three is one that's been in Stock Club forever, and one that I don't talk about publicly and is outpacing a lot of companies year over year, and that's Amgen. I think Amgen is probably one of the greatest companies on the planet and one of the best run ones in that biotech space. And also Nvidia and Lilly has their partnership. So it's a lot of exciting things with AI that's happening as a result. But if I had to put my money all on three, it would be IBB, Amgen, which has been a top pick in Stock Club forever, and Gilead Sciences. That would round out my top three.
That's a solid three. Obviously, we'll go Lilly, and I think, like you said, just sometimes things don't need to be explicitly explained to you. It's like the implicit, intrinsic value of what's being said, and like you said, when you sit there and you listen to engineers in the field of healthcare when it relates to AI and how the time frames that it takes to do things has just been shortened by technology, right? They talked about doing genomes and how it used to take 8 years, and now they've got it down to 4 hours. And like, what's that going to be in the next 3 years? Is it take 2? I mean, just insanity. So I would take a different three. I love your three. I just want to add and give people as much value as possible. So I have Lilly, obviously, as one. I have Biogen. And this is interesting because when you hear Biogen, the ticker is BIIB. This is one that focuses on specific things, right? So when I'm talking about in the world of biotech, do they dominate in a specific area, right? Like when we talk about GLPs, who's the dominant player in that? Like Biogen is a dominant in the neurodegenerative drugs, right? So we're talking about things that help treat Alzheimer's, things that help to treat Parkinson's disease. They are leaders in that. So Biogen would be one because I think the science that is going to prevail in the future will go into that space. How do we make things that were once not curable now curable, right? How do we shorten the time for that? And then I got a sleeper here, man. I watched the chart. And obviously knew the topic list here, but Vertex Pharmaceuticals, ticker VRTX.
TX, yeah.
Another one that if you look specifically at what they do and what they dominate at, is it an over leverage in a sense because they're dominant at one thing? Well, we just talked about the riches in those niches, right? And so they specifically focus on being dominant in the treatment and care of cystic fibrosis. That is their thing. Right? They're not doing GLPs. That is their thing. That's been their thing. And they've dominated at that. And so and this is a tricky sector when we're talking about biotech. We talked about this years ago. Yeah. It can come and it can go. And it's tough to predict because science takes time. Cures take time. Treatments take time. Testing, trials, all those things factor in. Pricing factors in. And so it's a tough sector to deal with. But I like the ones that dominate in specific things. And so Lilly, obviously, Biogen, and Vertex all have different dominant features, different things that they do, but they're leading in those spaces.
Yeah, they remind me a little bit of Nvidia when AMD was in the lead. They were so good at one thing. Eventually, you will see them branch out to others. Definitely a sleeper. And in this case, the cream rises to the top. Like they've had some tumultuous years. 22 was kind of tough. But with this list, Vertex, Amgen, Biogen, Gilead, like the cream rose to the top. The players that were kind of on the fringes have died out. So I don't think you can go wrong with this list.
Yes. Shout out to the chat. They got some of these in their portfolios already.
Yep.
Shout out to them.
Okay. But would these be advisable investments?
No, absolutely. Amgen is one of the top performers in Stock Club. Stock Club, if you in the chat, put fire in chat. If Amgen has been performing well, for sure. Amgen for sure. IBB, great exposure. Gilead would be third. But if you just do IBB, Amgen, and Lilly, holy trinity. Holy Trinity. You think speed felt good? What? I show speed portfolio for sure. IBB, Amgen, and Lilly together. Great combination. Great combination.
Yeah, shout out to Nvidia once again. Yeah, they definitely talked a lot about healthcare, and I think that was the key takeaway, at least for me, was they really hammered in that they don't make anything. They said that a variety of different times. It's like we don't make anything. They're a software company. They talked about that also. Like most people think they're a hardware company. They're actually a software company. And so when you think of Nvidia, most people would think Nvidia as a chip company, but I look at Nvidia as a medical company, as a gaming company, as a sports company, because it's everything. Anything that you put,
everybody.
Yep.
Anything you put their technology in, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So medical industry, they was very, very enthusiastic about that, spoke a lot about that. So that should give you some insight if you're interested as far as where they're thinking about going. They also spoke about robotics. They also spoke about autonomous driving vehicles, and they showed us their garage, the autonomous driving garage. So that's a few things that you guys might be interested in if you're interested as far as some insight into the company. And shout out to Peter and Nas. When we came back from Nvidia, we had dinner with Nas, and we was talking about Nvidia.
We gotta let that breathe for a second. Let that breathe for 2 seconds.
Yeah, he been breezing over these things. So I was on the phone with a billionaire the other day.
Yeah.
Hold on.
That Nas? Yeah, that Nas.
Okay.
Got you. That always is going to be like pretty surreal. Like you walk into the restaurant and it's Nas, what's up, Troy? Yo, what's good? Let's go. Like it's just, huh? What? Yeah.
And he's one of the greatest investors, like hands down in this era. Like if you put his returns up against any VC firm, it's not talked about in that light, but he's outperformed majority of them.
Well, the thing, and the reason why I said that is that the reason why, because, obviously he's on a run right now. He's involved in a casino. Everybody's seen his investment portfolio. Mass Appeal arguably had the best year in rap as far as all the albums that they put out.
Sure.
But, with him, he was just like, yo, damn, I got to learn about it. He's like, yo, next time y'all got to take me, like, like asking us questions, like, yo, what was they talking about? What did they have? Like, Like, so I say that to say, he's obviously an extremely successful person, right? That goes without saying. But he spent more time asking questions than talking.
Yeah.
So somebody like that, who's a legend, icon, can spend time asking questions. You gotta be able to receive the information, and that's why this show is so. And his partner Peter. He was like he actually watches Market Mondays and implements on the information. So, just at the highest level possible, people is paying attention and listening. So never take the information for granted.
Please don't. Please don't. It was so dope because he references Nvidia on the new album. It's like when he heard that we win, it was just like he just was like a sponge. Like, yo, word. He's like, I think I met the CEO once, man. Like he's a good guy. It was really surreal, man.
Yeah. Shout out to Nas, man. Somebody said Nasir Jones. There's only one Nas. Well, there's two Nas. My son's name is
two
Nas.
Nas's. Yeah.
But in this reference, we talking about
Nasir bin Al-Dara.
We talking about the Nas that we all know. And
while we're here. No, Shawty, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to change topics because somebody in the chat had asked a question about their pension. So I saw that. So I wanted to address it. But that's changing topics. So are you still on topic with your plan?
Yeah, still on topic. While we're here on Nvidia, can we share like one of the big breakthroughs that we each individually had while we're at the campus? Because I think I've been to a couple corporate campuses. You guys have been to a lot. Their culture is one of one. And to be in it is different. Can we all share one takeaway that can equip the audience tonight? Not only on their investing journey, but just how focused you need to be in 26 through 29.
Yeah, there's a couple of things, and I kind of was telling people as I was like the welcoming committee. I said, be a student today, and be super observant. Like really pay attention to what's being said, not exactly, all the times of things being spelled out for you, but listen to the companies that they talk about. Listen to who they're partnering with, right? So when we saw autonomous, and again, a shout out to Nvidia, they actually asked what they thought our audience would like, and I kind of like handpicked those areas because I thought that would be a good fundamental idea of AI. And so like when we went to go see the autonomous vehicles, what company did they partner with, right? So we saw Mercedes in there. Oh, they just had announced a partnership. When we went on the tour, when we actually saw the Rubin chip, right? It's the first time anybody's ever seen it in person. Who did they say is manufacturing? Oh, here goes Taiwan Semiconductor, right?
Yeah, TSM. Yep.
TSM was in there, and he talked about CoreWeave, and they talked about, hey, we did a sample for this company called GEV about how the turbines work. As they're saying these things, I'm like, confirmation, 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 confirmation. I think the other part, and I think Teresa said this, who was actually, was a pharmacist. She said, the mission is the boss. And I was like, ooh. If you look at everybody who has the expertise, I mean, there's thousands of employees, everybody's working in their own little silos, but they all are on a mission, and the mission is the boss. So when the job is done is when the job is finished, right? There is no hours. There is no like, hey, we got to take this lunch break. The mission is the boss. And so until we complete the mission, we got to keep working and we got to figure this out.
Yeah.
And everybody kind of loved that about it, right? Like everybody's, to a person, it was like, hey, we are living our life's dream. We're doing our life's work. We're just so happy to do it at this company because it permits it. I thought that was dope.
Yeah. One thing from some tangible items as far as information, if you're interested, I think it was Brandon. He said this.
Yeah, shout out to Brandon.
Yep.
He said, like we're still early in the AI phase, and he was saying like, he gave the reference as far as telecommunication companies. And he was like, apps are not possible without telecommunication companies like, T-Mobile and, all of these phone service providers, right? Like,
yeah,
Meta is actually created on multiple different systems. So without the service provider, there's no cell phone. And then without like Apple, then there's no, so Meta is like a third party app that was created on top of other things, right? And he was like, Meta is bigger than any service provider. So what he was saying is that we're still in the telecommunication phase now as far as the build out with AI. So he's like, what you're seeing right now is a lot of infrastructure being built. He's like, the next iteration, we're going to see applications being built on the infrastructure. Those applications that are built on the infrastructure have the ability to actually be bigger than the infrastructure itself. So he was like, as far as from his take, he's like, we're still early. And as far as investing in companies, there's companies that may not even be created yet that have the potential to be bigger than the companies that's already in existence that we look at as the giants.
20x, 30x, yep.
And
for me, it was
and from an entrepreneurial standpoint too. He was like, even as if you're an entrepreneur, what AI is giving you is an opportunity to build the new $1 trillion company with 2 employees, 3 employees, 5 employees, right? Because it's giving you the tools. So a lot of times people look at it like, this wave is over. He was like, there's still a lot of investment opportunity, but there's also still a lot of entrepreneurship opportunity to build on top of infrastructure that's currently being built.
Yeah, I'll just add before you go in, and somebody just put in the chat, I think Keon, and Jensen has said this before, AI, you got to think of it as a 5-layer cake, right? Like we're at the first, maybe the second layer. And that application piece is so true, right? The company that's going to dominate in the next 10 years hasn't even been invented yet.
Hasn't been created yet.
That's so encouraging, man. That's a dope one. Yeah.
2 for me. The 2 things I took away from Nvidia. Number 1, be so valuable that you partner with everyone on earth. The thing that makes Nvidia very interesting that they're either investing in or partnering with 2 to 5 million companies. So when Rashad was like, they don't make anything, they'll send out the idea so they're not having to manufacture and they're having those hard costs. But they'll send, hey, this is my idea for chips, send it to TSM bring it back. But all the list of AI companies that they're partnering with, it looks like an all-star team. Secondly, intellectual aptitude. Like if you ever got a chance to see like Kobe play, NVIDIA's filled with a bunch of intellectual mambas. across the board. I said this in Stock Club Friday. For the first time in a long time in my life, I felt intellectually behind having some of them conversations. And I read a lot, I study a lot, I research a lot. Magic told you last year, you got what, 3 years? I don't care if you don't like it, man. If you're not reading 50 to 100 pages a day, you're going to get left behind. And the gap for us to invest in some of these companies are not going to even be present because they won't accept our dollars. And like Rashad said, as an entrepreneur, you have to use these tools to move faster. Like they're talking about building $20 billion a year companies with 4 employees with this tech. We can't get left behind. We cannot. And I'm not saying this is in hyperbole. They're like, hey, there's a couple teams that have 2-man teams that are doing 60 and 70 million ARR right now, and in 4 years it should get to 3 and 4 billion. You can't be left behind.
Yeah. You know, we always talk about success loves speed. And I believe it was Mike, or maybe it was Matt, from Gronk, right? Like literally last week we were talking about how Nvidia was licensing / partnering with Gronk. A week later, they're already at headquarters working. Like they saw it. I was like, what was that like? You know, and kudos. I think somebody asked the question, like, what is their favorite company that they've invested in? They were like, yeah, we got over 2,500 companies we're invested in. They're all our favorite. And I was like, well, why? What makes it? Like, what's the criteria? I asked him on the side. He was like, look, we were doing something that was innovative that they know that they didn't do. And Nvidia saw it, and obviously they gave them a number that they weren't going to refuse, 20 billion or what number was. And they took it. And I'm like, 1 week you're thinking like, hey, we got the fresh thing that nobody's doing. The next week they're saying, hey, you're coming with us. And now you work here.
And the level of investment and dedication of how quickly they're deploying capital. Like Nvidia is cutting $100 to $300 million checks on Series A rounds.
Well, I think that's something that people aren't aware of too. They have a division called Nvidia Ventures. They have a venture capital for ARM, and I think they said they invested over 10,000 companies.
Yeah, it was like 10. Yeah.
Crazy numbers.
So Nvidia Ventures, that's another thing that you guys need to be aware of because the empire is expanding. We met one of the companies that somebody that's one of the companies that they acquired. So they're acquiring companies at a very fast rate. They might not be public. They might not be talking about it the same way that other people are, but they have a whole division that's solely dedicated to investing in and buying startup companies.
And you can argue that the companies that aren't publicly traded are more deadly because you don't have to go through all the scrutiny and you can onboard a lot faster. Like you said, they got acquired a week ago. He was already in the office, executed.
Right. Yeah, it's one of those things. But again, when you start talking about operating cash flow, right? If you look at how they've turned the operating cash flow almost like 6-fold over the past 6 years, you got to do something with that. And they've done a pretty nice job of saying, hey, somebody is doing something that we are lacking at. Let's not just say, hey, we'll shun them to the side. No, how can we figure out how we can license and partner together? And they're doing it at a different level,
Yeah, for sure. So shout out to Nvidia, man. Definitely eye-opening experience. In Nvidia, they will have a presence at InvestFest. 100. There's a 100% chance of that happening.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
And we met the co-founder.
For sure, definitely met the co-founder.
That wasn't no slight either. Hello,
like crazy.
And that's a good thing too because I posted that on Instagram and it's we met the co-founder of Nvidia. I don't think people even know Nvidia had a co-founder. They just see Jensen. So I think that's important to highlight on a few different levels because when we met him, he was just randomly walking in the office, and we had the conversation, and so I put a post and I'm like, not every billionaire needs to be known. And then somebody was like, well, in order to build a brand, you have to be known. So I think the key to this is that different people have different parts to play. So Jensen is the forward-facing CEO of the company. He's the one that has the leather jackets. He's the one that's wearing the crocodile. He's the one with Donald Trump every single week. And there are benefits of being a celebrity. Let's not act like there aren't. He's famous, so he's going to have benefits that the other co-founder does not have. and he's going to have opportunities that the other co-founder does not have.
Doesn't have.
But
Yeah.
there's also negative parts that come with it as well. When you're
Absolutely.
a CEO of that magnitude, you got to have 24-hour security.
Mm-hmm.
24-hour security. You can't do anything. You even what you
Constant
do
death
has to
threats.
be checked by the board. You got to get approved by the board to do certain things. Where the other co-founder, he's just moving around, doing whatever he want to do. He may not have the same recognition, but
I'm bothered.
he's rich, obviously.
Yeah.
So there's no need to have two Jensens. There's no need to have two Steve Jobs. There's no need to have two Zuckerbergs or three Zuckerbergs or four Zuckerbergs, right? But if everybody plays their part, team, together, everybody achieves more.
Wins,
That was a good acronym.
They remind me of Steve
and
Jobs and Wozniak.
Yeah.
That's a major part if you want to be rich. And shout out to my brother Dane, but I think that that's something that he never really figured out. Sometimes in life, you don't need to be the superstar.
Yeah.
Because there's already a superstar.
These are facts. I want to say his name correctly. The co-founder is Chris Malachowski. And again, just randomly was walking through the lobby, stopped in to say what's up to us, was interested in the tour. And like you said, this is a guy, and if you do the research on him, it's tough. Like I remember speaking to Jason, shout out to Jason, who visited the tour with him. Like, yeah, you ever seen a billionaire in real life? He was like, nah. I'm like, you're standing next to one. He was like, who? I'm like, him. This is his company. He was like blown away by it. But it's like that millionaire next door, right? Just kind of casually walking through, probably going to get a cup of coffee. But he built this thing from 1993 with Jensen. And here he is, undisclosed. Like, his net worth is undisclosed. The amount of shares he owns is undisclosed. But here he is at calculate. Yeah, I think we can figure it out.
And locked in with passion. I keep saying, like, the dream of making $10 or $15 million and walking away and just sailing away on the beach all day, like, you still need purpose. And the great part is he was alive and thriving. Like, you can see the joy in his face being there. I pray that everyone's able to find their passion. But like you said, you have to know when it's your moment in the spotlight, but when it's time just to be quiet and to be quietly executing. Yeah. And everybody in that building is quietly executing and benefiting from it.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, the gentleman who gave us the tour inside of to see the Rubin chip, we talk about Nvidia and the history. You know, there's that big story about how their employees are now millionaires. Here's a guy who's been there for 25 years, right? Think about that, 25 years. Let's say he took stock options in the company. 25 years ago, Nvidia was trading at 25 cents.
Adjusted price.
25 cents.
It's a bunch of them sitting on 40, 50 million who just happy being there. A bunch. That's why when they be like, yo, there's no money in corporate. Depending on what company you get in, if you're in San Jose and in the Valley and you stay long enough, ooh, you are crazy. It's probably more corporate millionaires than there are entrepreneur millionaires for sure.
And that's another thing too. Even what Brandon he was saying, like, as far as, you know, when you work in these corporate environments, you got to take advantage of like the stock options. He was saying, like, you know, he took, instead of a raise, he's like, just give me more stock options to buy, but then he buys it at a 15% discount. But it's a 15% discount from the 52-week low.
No,
it's not even a 15%. It's not even a 15% discount of where it's at today. If there's a 15%, it's a 15% discount of the lowest point it was at for the year. So just doing that alone,
retroactive investing. You
do that for a couple years. You put as much money as you can into that. You're a millionaire just off of that. So it's multiple ways. There's multiple ways to, you know, become a millionaire. But I do want to answer a question as far as the somebody asked about their pension. They said, what should you do? The first thing you should do is sit down with an advisor before you do anything, because that's a very big decision when it comes to pension. But one thing that people don't fully understand with a pension is that a lot of times you have an option of actually taking it in full and rolling it over into an IRA. And that's important because once you make a decision for a pension, you kind of locked in for life. So if you're a firefighter or a cop or a teacher or something that has a union job, you might have $1 million in your pension. And then it's like, okay, you get the option of taking $2,500 a month for the rest of your life, or $2,500 or $3,000 a month, but it doesn't go to your beneficiaries. Like, they give you like 4 different options. But Another option a lot of times is that you can actually take full control of the lump sum, because what they're doing is just a mathematical equation. That's how they calculate a pension payout. So it's a large number, and then they have it invested, and they say, okay, based off of this $1 million, we can afford to pay you $2,000 a month. But while they're paying you $2,000 a month, it's like a bank. Your money's invested. So people don't realize that. They don't think that they don't know that it's an actual lump sum. They think, okay, I'm just going to work and I'm going to get 50% of my salary when I retire, and I'm going to get $3,000 a month. But that $3,000 a month is accumulated number that has you've actually accumulated from the course of 30 years of you working. And you could potentially roll that over into a self-directed IRA where you actually have full control over that whole $1 million, as opposed to taking a couple $1,000s a month. So make the best decision for you and your family, but be fully informed, because once you make a decision with the pension, it's like you can't really change it.
Yeah.
Vitally important.
Big old fact.
Let's talk about real opportunities versus finesse. How do you know the difference? And not finesse 2 times. Shout out to him. He going viral.
He going crazy right now.
Water bottles. Finesse. I think you guys have.
Did you see that one?
Which one?
When you say if you hit hard enough, he's not going to fight you.
Oh, that's
go hit the devil.
Finesse is a star, y'all. Finesse is a star.
Yeah.
Like,
you're a funny guy.
A lot of trauma, a lot of pain, but he is hilarious. You guys had a great interview with Dan. Probably one of your more technical ones, and which I love. How are you able to differentiate when someone approaches you and gives you a pitch deck between an investment opportunity that's good versus one that you probably should stay away from?
A lot of times,
I'm not going to say what I want to say either. I feel you.
a lot of times it's intuition, though, for sure. Like, it's intuition of like, you kind of, see, okay, how professional is this? What have other people? That's a lot of it is really, it goes back to this, whether you're dating somebody, whether you're looking for a capital, whether you're looking for a job, nobody wants to be with somebody that nobody else wants.
Good point. Mm-hmm.
So if you have other
I can't
people
be first money in.
Right. If you have other people that invested in it, then that's going to be, encouraging.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. Looking at who the limited partners are, the approach is always important to me, man. Like you said, a lot of people will come up to you at the most random place and try to pitch you something. The intent. I think the most important thing for me is what you're building serving a purpose that can scale. Right? Like, and usually that has a technological component. I always tell people, like, what's the tech component? How is this going to scale? How can this help 1 million, potentially 100 million, potentially 1 billion people? And so it's tough, man, because we have ideas, but a lot of them need to be grand. Like, I feel like we've kind of had a limited approach in our ideas, and so I would encourage people to think large scale, think big, and present it in a manner that makes sense and a time that makes sense, right? Like, if you catch us at the gas station, probably not the best time. If we're if we're eating dinner with the fam, probably not the best time. Invest fast.
Airport bathroom. Y'all crazy.
Airport bathroom is crazy.
Hey, yo, but when you get a minute, no.
Yo, bro, I know you washing your hands, but so that is something, and it's kind of like, wow, we've been with CLF for a little bit. They kind of weed all that out, and then we get to sit down with the leaders of companies that they're interested in, and figuring out who the leader is, what his vision is or hers is. And again, can it scale? Does it have a technological component? Is it something that we would be using? I think are all factors when we're talking about, is this a real opportunity or they're just trying to finesse this?
But also, that's another thing Brandon was talking about, and that's another thing. That's probably the next thing that we probably will, bring to the community as far as real access.
Rashad, timeout on the play. We're going to run flex again, but TV timeout. Back to you, Rashad and Troy. Yep. Oh, pin down. I got you. But first. Thank you.
All right. With that being said,
Jockey, the person that you're investing in capital into matters a hell of a lot. And for those of you who are trying to deploy capital, whether it's Series A or seed, the round needs to be hard to get into. If they're too elated and the cap table is too wide, probably not the best. Probably not the best.
That's tough. I mean, and even that's tough, right? Because especially like us, it's tough for people to raise capital. So somebody's got to believe in you. But so that's why
can't be first. I agree. I just can't be first money in. Shot the nip. Black Sam, I'm all money in for sure. But first money in? Hell no. Can't do it. Sorry. One of your cousins that put in 10,000? Come on now. Nope, not me. I gotta watch you make YouTube videos.
I believe in y'all, man. I believe in y'all out there.
Let's do this. Let's talk about Nancy Pelosi. Before that, InvestFest. Get the tickets to InvestFest, August 7th to August 9th. Get your hotel block because it's limited rooms, so make sure you get your hotel block. This will sell out. Get your vendor booths if you're interested. But just know we actually secured something yesterday that's big for the city of Atlanta. Let's just say that. First time we've ever done something like this is going to be big. A pillar. Let's just say this. Mount Rushmore of Atlanta. Mount Rushmore of Atlanta.
Yeah.
And VIP night will be a black tie affair.
Please remember.
If you do not have the appropriate garments, you will not be allowed in. Regardless if you have a ticket or not. I'm letting you know in advance. Respectfully speaking, of course. Respectfully speaking, of course. And shout out to Nas, man. Once again, that was real proud when he was like, yo, nothing. He's like, yo, InvestFest is the biggest thing in the world. So that was real. That was a dope moment. You know, when somebody that you looked up to your whole life actually has that level of admiration and respect for something that you've built. So salute to Esco for giving those words of encouragement, man. He was like, yo, the InvestFest. That was his exact word. He said, InvestFest is the biggest thing in the world.
That's tough, yo. It's a major key.
It's crazy, man. It almost, like I said, surreal.
Major key. Speaking of major keys, Nancy Pelosi. So we went to Nvidia. The next place we're going is Capitol Hill. And the greatest investors you can argue are not on Wall Street.
Ain't no argument.
They're in Washington. When you see some of these politicians' portfolios and what they've been able to accumulate since they've been in office is historic. And she's probably the top dog.
She's up there
when it comes to
she's up there.
Her portfolio. It's become legendary for sure. Like people track her portfolio whenever they, because they got to announce different moves that they make. So she reports 69 million of new stock trades. So they released the information. 69 million in stock and options activity between late December 25 and mid-January 26. So in 1 month.
Yeah.
In 1 month, she did $26 million in stock trades.
Yeah.
Legendary.
To it, ain't it?
Legendary.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about the
trades?
I mean,
so I got the options trades here, and for some of you, this is going to be a whole learning lesson. But we covered this at the Mastermind last year. Her trading strategy is very unique, and it's something that if you have capital, it makes a lot of sense. What she does is, and I'll tell you the companies that she invests in. So she bought 20 Google calls at a 150 strike for January 2027. She bought 20 Amazon calls for 150 strike for January 2027. And she bought 20 Nvidia calls for $100 strike for January 2027. Right, so she's going out. These are leaps, right? This is out till next January. And if you're listening to those prices, you're saying to yourself, Google has passed 150. It's way past 150, right? It was at 331 last week. Amazon is past 150, right? It was trading at 240, right? Like Nvidia is at 185. She's buying $100 strike. Well, here's why, right? In options trading, there's something that you call out of the money, which means that you go over the price that it's currently at. And then you have in the money, which is kind of like floating around where the equity's trading. And then you have deep in the money. And what she's done is she's done deep in the money calls. Why? Couple of reasons, okay? The equity has far surpassed the strike, which means that the intrinsic value, right, is not speculative. There's already value built into it, right? Nvidia has already passed 100. Okay, that's the first thing. The next thing is that the decay that happens, right? So in contracts, when we talk about expiration dates, there's always decay, right? The theta of like the Greeks when you study options trading. There's less sensitivity to it because again, it has already passed a strike. So let's say Nvidia is trading at 185 now. If it pulls down to 179, if you're near the money, that time decay, right? You're going to see a volatile move. When you're deep in the money, it's a move, but it's not as volatile. Here's the other reason she does it. Okay, this is the real reason. Let's say Nvidia moves from 185, right, to 187. That's a $2 move, right? $2 move if you have the stock, right? So that's great. You got some shares. Each share grows by $2. In an options call, if Nvidia runs from 185 to 187, you're talking about maybe a 3x on that percentage, right? But she's deep in the money, so that percentage is a little bit greater. So she's actually has protection on the way up and safety a little bit on the way down. So less decay, more upside, intrinsic value is already built in. She's been doing this year over year, leap after leap. She buys deep in the money calls, and the reason is because she's already built the value. The win is kind of built in, and she's protecting herself on the way down. It's a great strategy. It's more expensive to buy deep in the money calls, but at this point, she's just rinsing and repeating. And I think for us, we look at it and say, hey, yes, it's expensive, but more importantly, what are the companies? Google.
Yeah, the quality of the companies
Amazon,
matter.
the companies that she's choosing make a lot of sense. And so it gives us, again, if we're thinking about confirmation, like those signs, those catalyst events, all right, what are the people in Washington investing in? Let's see, right? Let's go to global trends and see what they're trading in. If we start seeing those companies over and over, oh, they know something. We got to just follow the money.
And for those who are not invested in the option, can I give prices away on the equity side?
Yep.
Let's do it.
Google entry would be 285.46 is where you will want to enter. Amazon 223.17 and Nvidia 173.65. So 285.46 for Google, 223.17 for Amazon, and 173.65 for Nvidia.
Facts. But she also stole some stocks though.
Yeah.
She sold 45,000 shares of Apple. She sold 20,000 shares of Nvidia and Amazon. She sold 10,000 shares of Disney and 5,000 shares of PayPal.
I'm not mad at some profit taking.
Yo, you never lose by taking profit.
Yeah, I'm not mad at her taking some profit off the table.
And she also purchased 25,000 shares of Alliance Bernstein.
Say the companies that she sold.
She sold
Disney,
Nvidia, Apple, Nvidia, Amazon, Disney, PayPal.
Okay. So Disney, Apple, in the time frame in which she sold, hit its all-time high. Nvidia hit its all-time high, and Amazon hit an all-time high. PayPal, Disney, not so much, but those for sure.
That's great profit taking on those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Nancy Pelosi.
And that's just her. Her husband has his own portfolio.
Yeah, her husband, he the one. What?
Different game they playing.
Oh, a quick quiz question of the week. Who is a top political trader by percentage? Put it in chat. I want to see if you guys know who is number one. Nancy's top 5, but percentage-wise is number 1. Put that person in chat, please. Let me know if you guys been doing your homework and your research.
Shout out to B. You had a baby today?
Oh, B's us. Shout out to B, man.
Yeah, okay. Congratulations
to my brother.
God bless.
Yeah. God bless. I got to shoot him a text after this. Shout out to him. They said MTG. Who?
Margie Taylor Greene.
Yeah. The Pelosi way.
Okay. Who is it?
I want
Who
them
is
to put
it?
it in the chat. I want them to put it in the chat.
Oh, they have not put it in the chat yet?
Not yet.
I see them getting close, man. I see the Tommy Tuberville. I know he's in the top 10.
They're getting close. Yeah. Yeah.
Can I give them the site? I mean, you've given it out on Market Money before.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Capital Trades. If you go to Capital Trades.
Yeah, Capital Trades.
I know Bar Chart has it as well, but Capital Trades is a site you can use. Bar Chart is another one. And it literally will put up the ticker. Like if you put the tab, it'll show you exactly who's done what and who's leading. It's like a whole thing.
Yeah. Right. Whoever gets it right at the end of the show, I'll cash up you. Do your homework.
So let's talk about Morgan Stanley's top stock picks. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, it was 6 in this list. AMD, Costco, Southwest Airlines, Cummins, Palantir, and Visa. The 3 I love the most out of this group, AMD, I think they're performing incredibly well. Costco, which I highlighted earlier. But the third is a sleeper, and that's Cummins Inc. I feel like the market is running up so much because we're back risk on, but they are a gem of a company that is really underappreciated and not talked about enough. I still love Visa. That's definitely one of the ones in Stock Club. Palantir, we know, we talked about endlessly. I don't like the profit margin so much. But if you look on the electric power generation side, diesel, power services company, they are going to benefit from this AI boom as well. So AMD, Costco, and Cummins are the 3 I would pick out of this list, but I still love Visa a hell of a lot. Southwest Airlines, I wouldn't touch right now. I wouldn't touch.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think AMD reports, I believe, next week. Obviously, love them. It's almost a year to the date from when we talked about it last year, and it's gone on this 125% increase since then. AMD is going to be great. The CPU margins are going to be great. They've cracked into the GPU space. Love them. I got Visa as well. I think it's had a nice, healthy pullback when we talk about regulation and deregulation in the world of fintech and finance. They'll play a role. Their global expansion is something that we love. Obviously, when we travel a lot, I mean, it's a must-have thing, right? Do you have Visa? And I don't want to say Palantir, but the way that we've seen them kind of consolidate a bit over the past 6 months is an interesting story. We can see that the administration is hell-bent on using new ways of technology to stir up the world. In fact, did you hear about I don't even know what they use in Venezuela. They were just like, it's a weapon that nobody has ever seen before, and it left everyone. It was like some sonic. Palantir is just, I mean, from a moral side, I don't know if I invest in it, but I think they're going to have a pretty solid year. Those will be my 3 for Morgan Stanley: AMD, Palantir, Visa.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about how,
to be honest.
Yeah.
How 9 to 5 investors should properly invest.
I like this question, and I know it's been presented a few times. How do I properly access profits or invest as a 9 to 5 investor? This time frame has to be the same. Find 4 quality companies, hold for 5 years, don't deviate from that. I know it's not the answer that you want to hear, but if you're not willing to hold for half a decade, you don't want wealth you want to flip. I'm not in the show you how to flip because most people don't have enough discipline for that. But if you hold for a 5-year period, you'll do incredibly well. If you've held something that I recommended for 5 years and made money, please put yes in chat. I know some want a short-term 1-year answer, and we're back in the gamification of making everything a meme stock, so I get it. But the easiest way to get those high returns is to hold for a 5-year period. So I hope this helps There's no difference between if you're an institutional investor, fund to fund, to me, 9 to 5, full-time trader. You have to have some positions long term. And if you're not holding for 5 years, you're gambling, truth be told. So, and y'all know you want to argue with it. Some of y'all may want to argue with it, but those outsized returns of the returns that Bitcoin have gotten over 10 years and Nvidia have gotten, you can't get those unless you're holding for a 5 or 6 year period. So hold for the long term. So you can
Hold
get
for
out
the
of that 9
long.
to 5.
Do you ever? This is interesting, right? Because I feel like what's happened is we've created a portfolio where you have shares, right? And if I have shares, then I get options contracts, and any profit comes from the options, but I never really take profit from the shares. Is there any point? Do you like I used to say, like a percentage? If we go over 100%, we're going to take out our initial profit and we'll let the runners run. Is it just keep in the portfolio, right? Like, do you just keep? I got 2,000 shares of Nvidia. I'm keeping it for the next 10 years. Or is, Nvidia has grown by 200% since I purchased it. I may, you know what I mean? Like, what do you suggest for that 9 to 5 investor?
I don't want to give the trading has considerable risk. Please consult your advisor. Just because it is happening for some tech stocks does not mean that it will happen for all. But if you hold for a 10-year window, you could be up 5,000%. So some people are cutting profit off too quickly and like, well, wow, I got 2,000 and 3,000%. The other part that they don't tell you, and I've done this at every InvestFest in my presentation, they always tell you that long-term investing is boring when all the wealth accumulation happens in 5, 10, and 20-year cycles. So would you want to miss out on a 10-year Bitcoin run, a 10-year Tesla run, 10-year AMD run, 10-year Nvidia run, and be up several thousand%? No. And as a person I'll tell you, it's really hard to sit on equity and not buy shit. I know. But there's nothing better than if a deal doesn't go through, it don't matter. It doesn't matter. Now you have all the chips in your favor. A lot of times we say, and I've said this before, going back to 2020, you can't tell me that you want generational wealth and you won't hold for your generation. Somebody's going to finesse you out of your spot too early. So one of the best things I've done in my portfolio, Xander's portfolio, is just hold for a long period of time. And that's why a lot of times when people are like, oh, things are going well, it's the discipline of holding that gives you the freedom to be able to say what you want and do what you want. So I get it, but hold for the long term. Maybe take some out in a 5-year period and be disciplined with the money. But to take the money out just to go blow it on bags and go buy Balenciaga and because you want to go buy a car and you want to spend some money on your side piece, I don't want to hear that. If you don't like the answer, I was rich when y'all met me. I don't care if you like the answer or not. This is the truth. Even at Nvidia, you're looking at some of the smartest people on earth to ever be in tech, and they've been holding for 10 years. You can't take the shortcut just because you want to F off your money. I'm sorry.
Right. I think that's kind of like one of those core principles is like, if I have an option on the company, I must own the company, right? Because I believe in its future growth. And so if I believe in its future growth, then I could take a leap on this, which is why you see TSM in the portfolio all the time, which is why you see Nvidia, you see Meta, you see Amazon. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
I mean, and on the options and future side, that's what it's for think of it as like income, if you will, or cash flow. But on your long-term portfolio, you want to hold it. Like, you guys haven't sold the IP to InvestFest. There's a reason why. It's more valuable in 15 years than it is if you sold it year 3. Trade if you need cash flow. I'm not mad at that. But for the equities, man, hold that shit minimum 5 years. Ideally 10 to 15. Or stay
Let's talk
broke.
about gold. So gold and silver was up again today. Pull back a little bit, but it was up again today. All-time high, first time ever gold over $5,000. And
silver cross 100.
Yeah, we were talking about this with Mike Novogratz last time we saw him. Mike Novogratz, if you don't know him, he's a billionaire. Remember his name. He's one of those ones. gold just keeps going. So now everybody's looking at what's next. Copper.
Yeah, copper, platinum. Yeah.
It's, you know what? And again, just being on the tour, right? If we looked, and for a lot of people, it was the first time that they ever saw a GPU rack, right? And when we opened that rack, you looked inside. I think we were standing next to each other. I'm like, yo, they're actually showing them the components of what goes in this rack, who's making these racks, who's doing the liquid cooling. And inside of each rack, what metal was in there? Copper.
Copper.
And so, copper, shout out the rugs. Shout out the rugs. But copper is the metal. If we're talking about expansion, especially inside of data centers, especially inside of GPU racks, whether it's Google making them or Nvidia or Meta, that component is inside there, right? Because we're talking about conductivity. Copper is one of those metals that produces it at a high level. Copper will play a part in that. If you look at some of the ETFs, don't really like them individually in terms of copper mining companies, but if you look at the ETFs, there's a couple that have gone over 100% over the past 12 months.
Yeah.
So copper is there. And if you look at the cost barrier, right, it's relatively cheap at this point. But there's a case for it, right? Like you can see the case, you can see the build out, you can see part of the AI story. Copper is part of it. So it's something that we definitely should watch, keep on our watch list.
If somebody wants to buy gold, should they wait for a pullback, or what should they do?
Wait for a pullback. If you tune in next week at the same time, I will give you the exact price where to invest in GOD and gold futures next week on Market Mondays. Back to you, Trevor Shot.
There you have it. Yeah. It's going to get the price to buy gold. Because if you think about it, I mean, you would think it would have drastic pullback if, some level of government stability happens, but that doesn't look like it.
Unlikely.
For at least 3 years. For at least 3 years.
Yeah.
For at least 3 years.
At minimum. And even then after that, if you follow the money, they're putting their money into a few candidates that could win next time around. So
because as long as this continues, you would think gold would continue to go up.
For sure.
It looks like it's going to continue. I'll give
200 will be here soon.
I'm gonna give out some copper ETFs to put on your watch list. First one is COPX. COPX is Global X Copper Miners ETF. And if you look at that chart, man, 125% in 12 months is nothing to sneeze at. Second one is COPP, Sprout Copper Miners ETF. Another one, another 100+% over the past 12 months. And then CPER, United States Copper Index Fund. Yeah, put all three of those on your watch list. If you're looking to get into the copper space, obviously that AI story, it plays a role in it. And United States, man, we well, what we spent $1 billion on rare earth minerals, 1.6.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's something there. There's a story there.
And while we're talking about returns, 10-year return for Nvidia is 20,000% return, Netflix 8,500%, Amazon 2,100%, Google 2,100%, Apple 1,000%, Microsoft 1,900%, Tesla 2,600% for a 10-year hold. Put it in chat. You deserve to be wealthy. I know you want to get rich, but you deserve to be rich too. But if you want to be wealthy, you got to hold for a 10-year period. Got to hold. If you're not customizing the advice because you want to take your vibe out to Miami, sorry. Hold for 10 years, my boy. Sorry. Listen the first time.
And do remember too that the Nvidia trip, that's never actually been done before. So
nope.
What we've been able to do, nobody has ever been able to do. That's another thing that they haven't been able to figure out.
And there's more.
It's like the pyramids. They still don't really know how they built those pyramids. They still don't know how they built those pyramids. They still don't really figure. If you really think about it, you start with an iPhone and then you just get 25,000 people at an event and you get to go to Nvidia and then you get to talk to the vice president and then you get to have a New York Times bestseller. Still really haven't been able to figure out how that one happened. How all this happened. How did it happen? Illuminati?
Perhaps. Perhaps. Secret society trying to keep their eye on me.
God did. I'll tell you how God did.
Call God.
God did. Yep. Mastery of your craft. God did. Blueprint Central. Stay locked in. And also, if we can be honest, play long-term games with long-term people to get long-term result.
Relationships is
100%.
everything. Relationships is the key. That's the key. Remember this. Relationships is the key.
That's a fact.
And there's a thesis about this.
Yeah. That what we were able to accomplish there only happens because of relationships. This isn't like, hey, I know
you can't buy your way into that.
Nah, there's no ticket for that. In fact, if you like try to Google it, they let you tour the outside. Like you can drive around the campus. Like nobody's just allowed inside the campus. But
please get off the property. This is a private community. Please get the property.
Don't wear no shoes in my house, boy.
Okay. We got a surprise for you guys, but before, let's just run through these last two real quick. What's the best research tools to follow for people that want to, learn about investing?
If you want to know how to follow the money, it's 3 sites that I love. One is fintel.io, no relationship, no affiliate, anything, just fintel.io, and go to institutional ownership. It's one of my favorite sites to see where big money is going. Number 2 is moneyflows.com. And then number 3 is oldschoolvalue.com. So those 3 are the 3 that I look at every week to see where the big money is flowing in and out of. So when you talk about circular investment and sector rotation, you can start to see where the money is flowing there first by using those 3 in tandem.
I'll give it 3. UILU, please bear with me. I know this is something we've been using. Investors Business Daily is an incredible site. Use that every single day. Seeking Alpha, Barron's, Wall Street Journal, Estimize, and there's a few others, but I won't give those away just yet. But that is a good core right there. Follow the money.
Yeah, and then because what we're not going to do is act like we haven't already, we're not going to play this game. The book is called You Deserve to Be Rich. The show is called Earn Your Leisure, and is also called Market Mondays. The institutions, if you want to be part of a community, is called Red Panda and EY University. We're not going to act like we haven't already created the answer.
The ecosystem.
The answer. There's a time to be modest. What we're not going to do is look past the solutions that we've already curated.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Talk to him. Yeah. Talk to him.
Battle of the best.
What we got? Let's run it down. All right. Well, I'll run it down for you, Ian. And this is tough, and maybe we'll all go back and forth with it really quickly. We got the battle of the best. Micron versus Palantir. Who you got?
I'm going with Micron for sure. Not only for political reasons and spiritual reasons, but just pure return. I'm leaning on Micron. What about you?
I think it's safe to say that I'm gonna go with Micron. I see some people in the chat saying that they wish they invested more in Micron. I'm still there. Memory's still gonna be a story. We're not done yet with Micron. I'm going with Micron. Okay. Let's go. AMD versus Intel. I think I got a fair understanding here. What you got?
I know AMD has had a precipitous increase the last 8 weeks. Even despite that 13% drop last week, I won't rail on Intel as much as I used to. I still don't think it's a quality company, even if Trump and Barron Jr. will benefit from it. I'm definitely going AMD.
This is interesting because when you're watching a company actually appreciate, like we saw Intel do from being at 27, now I think got up to 50, and you understand that the government is investing in it, but you still know deep down, like the core principles of it, it's just not really good, which is why you saw them drop 15%. AMD has been in the portfolio from the beginning. It will remain in the portfolio. We got a bunch of calls on that. I'm going with AMD. Let's do this one. Generac versus Seagate. Seagate's an interesting one. We talked about that in the memory space. Who you got?
This is tough. I like both, but I'm going to lean on Seagate. I think that the memory story is too big, and this is such a well-run company that is like a hidden gem. I'm gonna go with Seagate. What do you guys think? And what do you guys think in chat?
I'm with you on Seagate. I feel like, when we were talking about this for the past 2 years about memory, we were early, and like it felt like it was a thing that our community was really like locked in on and focusing on. And now I see it everywhere. I see it on Instagram. I see it on CNBC. I feel like
it's moving
everybody
around.
knows that this is happening. So I'm
Yeah.
curious to watch how the space moves. I don't know if we're gonna have those, those quick run-ups that we've seen in Seagate and Western Digital, SanDisk, another one, Micron. So I'm interested to see what happens here. I know they got earnings coming up. We'll talk about that. But I'm still going with Seagate here.
Okay.
All right, we got one more. Ticker ONDS versus NBIS. Is that Nibius?
Yeah, Nibius. Yeah. I got a caveat for this one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I like Nibius in this matchup, but only if I can get it at $25.64. Like it has to be price specific. The other ones, I would be fine dollar cost averaging, but Nibius, I have to get it this particular price to be okay with it. But I have them as the winner of this one.
All right, Nibius or CoreWeave? Same space.
That's a
It's a wild card.
Both are price dependent. Yeah, both are price dependent. I would have to get CoreWeave at Stock Club. Don't kill me. Well, you guys shouldn't care because it's not in mine.
All right, while you read, I'll give context to it. Nibius signed a deal with Meta about 3 months ago to provide sort of that data for companies, the same way that CoreWeave has worked with Nvidia. Nvidia actually owns a percentage of CoreWeave and provides it with its GPUs. So similar spaces, similar functions. I guess it comes down to preference at this point, right?
Yeah, I would have to get it at $68.93. If I can get it at $68.93, yeah, they're washing now. Of course, because of the added incentive of the Nvidia investment. Do I think they'll shoot back up to that 187 price anytime soon? No, but if I can get it at $68.93, I can pretty much guarantee by the summertime it should be at 140. I'll be happy with that return on investment.
All right. So now we got something that's very important. Very, very important. One thing that I missed when I was giving those references is InvestFest also. You need to go to InvestFest if you really want to take your education serious. They still haven't figured out how that's been able to get pulled off either. Vlad Tenev asked us that. He said, how'd you do that? He's one of the most powerful people in the world. How'd you do this? How'd you do it? With that being said, this is important segment. This is a very important segment. So can we bring our guest up? Hey.
How are you?
Hi guys, how are you?
We are good. How you feeling?
Again. I'm feeling great. I'm just a pleasure to be here and so much fun to listen to you guys. This is great. It not only is it good stuff, it's interesting and fun. I love the way you present it, and I'm like, yes, okay, I'm right. I'm taking notes right here.
Thank you. So this is vitally important. So, okay, Lisa Blackwell. So, all right, some backstory. If you follow Nvidia, you know that every year they come out with a new chip, and they name the chip after a historical figure, like one of the top scientists in the world, somebody that has contributed to artificial intelligence, somebody that, like a pioneer in this space. Last year, chip was named Blackwell. So Blackwell before Rubin is this year. Rubin hasn't come out yet. So currently Blackwell is the most advanced chip ever created. Now, the interesting thing is that Blackwell was named after David Blackwell. David Blackwell is Lisa's grandfather.
Correct.
This is a very interesting story. And we're gonna play a visual. We're gonna play a visual to talk about it, and then but before we play the visual, can you just cue this up for us?
Sure. So you're about to see 10 minutes of what is a concept reel for the documentary that we're creating about my grandfather's story. And it really has a little bit of the sort of linchpin that everything turned around on, like when I start digging into the story and what I discovered, and you guys are getting ready to see sort of what that looks like. And again, this is the concept reel for the documentary.
Let's play it, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay.
National Medal of Science 2, David Blackwell, University of California, Berkeley.
I would like to introduce you to a very, very big GPU, named after David Blackwell.
For fundamental contributions to probability theory, mathematical statistics, information theory, mathematical logic, and Blackwell games.
David Blackwell was a great amongst greats. He was the great, great, great mathematician among great mathematicians.
Blackwell was a pioneer who was ahead of his time.
I thought I knew my grandfather. Eggs at dawn, martinis at dusk, and a 5% dividend man all the way. Years later, Nvidia named their platform Blackwell. That's when I start digging and discovered my grandfather, Professor Blackwell, architect of the mathematics behind artificial intelligence.
A lot of his ideas really caused people to rethink, how do we interpret data?
There are many, many standard tools that people use all the time that are named after David. You know, Blackwell spaces and the Rao-Blackwell theorem.
Blackwell nowadays is known for what's called the Blackwell-Rao theorem. Sort of like saying if something happens frequently enough, you should be able to kind of predict what's going to happen next. However, there might be some bias in some of that data. That's essentially what the Blackwell-Rao theorem tells you, is that there's a way you can kind of estimate what should happen, but then minimize the bias that you would have there in the data. And this is an amazing approach to doing statistics. If Blackwell were alive today, he would certainly be the one to raise up his hand and say, you know, look, there's bias in AI, there's bias in the training data that we're using, and we really need to think about minimizing these as more and more people use these models.
I was very clear that I was going to be a school teacher. My father had a friend who was on the school board, and before I finished high school, he already told my father that if I went to college and got a degree, he would get me a job teaching. And this was in the Depression. And it was a great relief to me and everybody else when it was clear what my future was going to be. After I got my bachelor's degree in 3 years, I decided to spend my 4th year getting a master's degree. But then at the end of my 4th year, I was encouraged to apply for a fellowship to go on for a PhD, and I did. And then, of course, my objective changed. There were perhaps 25 awards. 22 of them required teaching assistant responsibilities. 3 of them were pure fellowships. And everybody applied for both things, and the lucky 3 got the fellowships. And one of my colleagues who also applied told me that I was going to get one of the fellowships. And I said, how do you know? And he said, well, you're good enough to be supported, and they're not going to put you in front of a classroom. And he was right.
They were not going to put you in front of a classroom because?
Because I'm black.
David, you know, he was He was a black mathematician, and there are no black mathematicians that would that it were, but there are very few anyway. What was it like to be David Blackwell? I never could get him to talk about that. Anything about what his experiences were in Berkeley. He had the problems of not being hired in the 1950s because the wife of the chairman of the Berkeley math department said, well, I wouldn't want to see us hire somebody that I couldn't invite to my home. Yet, Jersey Neyman realized that David Blackwell was David Blackwell and did hire him over these awful people's dead bodies. But to try to get David to tell any story of that sort, he just wasn't a negative person.
My grandfather came to UC Berkeley in 1954. That was the same year that the Brown versus the Board of Education came down, 1954. And my grandparents are driving across the country with their 7 kids with the Green Book. There was this book that they had to use to get across the country so they knew where they could sleep, safe places that they could sleep. Then when he got here, he wasn't offered the customary hospitality. And so he went, and they didn't have housing. They slept in Tilden Park for 2 months. Well, and he would go commute and teach at the school. 7 children.
When we traveled, and we did travel a lot in the car, in the station wagon, when we would travel, he would have a map, and he would give each of us a map, and he would have gasoline estimates, time estimates for how long it was going to take us, estimates for how long we go to the bathroom, estimates for what the traffic was going to be. But along the way, he kept us all engaged at our own level. And it was remarkable to have children 10 years apart, one is very young, the other one is much more mature, and still keep them all engaged. They somehow felt equal to the challenge. It was just reflective of his considerate manner of teaching.
Your grandfather was the most delightful, friendly, warmest person. I just remember him with a smile on his face.
All the years I had heard people talk about David Blackwell, they never talked about him being angry or bitter. Most importantly, they never talked about him saying anything negative about anyone else. And that, I think, truly is a testament to his character. That's what I strive to do, is to really say, maybe things have happened negatively, but let me not try to dwell on that. And let me try to move forward to say, what are positive things that are happening, and what are ways that I can make this world a better place?
You have arrived at a developers conference. There will be a lot of science described, algorithms, computer architecture, mathematics.
In March last year, Nvidia unveiled its most ambitious GPU architecture. We named it Blackwell in honor of Dr. Blackwell. Today, we're witnessing the dawn of the AI era, and the Blackwell architecture is the engine that's powering this new industrial revolution. We strive each day to honor Dr. Blackwell's remarkable legacy by bringing the promise of AI to industries, developers, and researchers worldwide.
Specifically to African Americans, I would say, don't consider your race as a handicap. If you want to go in a direction, go in that direction. In other words, make decisions on the same basis as if you were Chinese or white or anything else. Don't worry so much about race. It's going to be a factor, but let other people worry about it. Don't you worry about it.
David Blackwell was the epitome of excellence. We had a booth at a math conference. An individual walked by. He wasn't a black mathematician. he pauses at the table, looks at the picture of Blackwell and is very confused, and then says, you know, I'm a statistician, but that picture can't be right. David Blackwell wasn't black. So I asked him, so how are you convinced that he wasn't black? And he said, well, there's this Blackwell-Rao theorem, and it's an amazing theorem. It just never crossed my mind that Blackwell could be black.
So imagine if David Blackwell didn't have to be hidden 50 years ago. If he wasn't hidden 50 years ago, what would STEM look like today? What's it gonna look like tomorrow if we don't uphold his face and those like him?
Yes.
Wow.
There you
Work of
have
art.
it.
Wow.
Sure.
Thank
Put
That was
fire in
amazing.
chat, please.
Louisa, it's incredible. Watching it, talking to you, getting to know you over the past few months has just been incredible. The chat is going crazy. You know, we don't need a month or we don't need a day to celebrate our history. We make history every day. And I'm so happy that you put this piece together.
And just for full context for people, like, you know, it's interesting because we talk about AI so much, and who really knew that one of the forefathers of artificial intelligence was black and held in such high regard in the world of science that the largest company in the history of the world, which is Nvidia, named their most advanced piece of software ever after a black man. And, you know, once again, it just goes back to, I think you said this at Nvidia, like if he was well known, what would that do to STEM in our community? Because we aspire to be things that we see success in. So we aspire to be athletes and entertainers because we see success in that. It's not just because we're talented in athletics and entertainment. We are, but we're also talented in math and science, but we don't see, we haven't been exposed to that. So that's not something that we aspire to be. But what if his story was so well known? How would that potentially change the trajectory of young people knowing that artificial intelligence was practically started by somebody that was black?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lisa, it you know, we had this call, and just, I mean, when we talk about relationships early in the show, this is just one of these relationships that was kind of just like God, right? Like I remember we had a call and it got emotional for a sec because unbeknownst to you, we were already going to Nvidia. Shout out to our brother Tui, and I know Noel's on the check-in. They were like, hey, Troy, there's this person that you guys should meet. I think she would be incredible. I'm like, who is this person? I saw the deck. I'm like, oh, this is a great story. But when we connected, it was fresh off of InvestFest, and I was like, there was this message that I got from our brother Marcus Rozier about, you know, being who you're going to be so somebody else can be who they're going to be. And when I relayed that message to you, I said, yes, Jensen and Chris, the co-founders of Nvidia, named the chip Blackwell. They did their part. They may not have told his story, but they did their part so that we could now do our part. I want to know what this moment feels like for you, obviously being on the campus, being there, meeting the co-founder. What was this moment like for you?
You know, I want to say that this moment right now is bigger to me than that moment. This moment to me is bigger because this is my community. This is who my grandfather cared about. And these are the people I care about. And so this is bigger. And to see their excitement about this moves me in a way I cannot express. But to answer your question directly, it was interesting. It's a full circle moment in so many ways, because I just want to put a finer point on something you said earlier, where Nvidia has a history of naming their products after accomplished scientists and things like that. Well, Vera Rubin, who's the next one, she's actually an astronomer. And then another person, they're just different people who have made profound contributions to science. He's the only one who's really done something in AI specifically. And part of the reason is there are only a few of them. And most of them just like Claude Shannon is one, and I think that's what Claude is named after. But so when we came in there and saw what they're creating with his work, it's just so powerful. But it's also something else because nobody knows that he was there doing it, So it's two things at once.
When the documentary is fully done, like, what's the desire you have for the community after they finish watching it? Once again, thank you for being here. I almost have tears in my eyes because so many of our stories are hidden by design. But what's your end goal that you want to see happen for us after everyone watches the full documentary?
Thank you for asking that. I think part of what my vision for the documentary is what's happening right now is for the light to turn on and for realization to happen and for people to know the story and to change their idea of who belongs at the table, not only who belongs at the table, who built the table. So there's that, right? So that's part of what is important for me from the documentary. So part of that is happening right now in this conversation with your very expansive viewership. And the question you ask also goes to the name of the film. It's called Game of Genius. So we've never had an official face of a genius who was Black. It's always like if you Google what is a genius, it's like this old white man. We see Einstein. We see these people, right? So one of the name of the film is called Game of Genius. And it's because who is named genius is really a game. It's a game of perception of who we are holding up as geniuses, right? And in his day and time, the game was to suppress him in different ways, right? And you'll see that in the film. There's something called dynamic programming. Almost every, it's a very common concept. My grandfather created it, and then someone else later on coined the term and got the credit. So that's separate from some of the decision sciences. He did so much. So my vision for the film is for people who are young and old and of all ages to see his face and know how profound his impact is on the world today. He is a founding father of all the technology, all the decision sciences of what we're doing right now. And I want everyone to know that and see a Black man's face there.
Yeah, can you talk about that? Because you talked about it even on the video as far as like his work. It was a lot of like predicting what's going to happen in the future, right? Like that was a large part of his work and like the thesis that he created. So can you talk about like his work a little bit?
Yeah, I can. Well, let me say this. Do you mind if I back up and tell you how I kind of discovered this a little bit?
Of course.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So, and that'll help answer the question. But so when Nvidia named their product after my grandfather, I really wanted to understand why, like what was going on. And in the process of trying to understand his story, I learned his story and no one else had really put it together. So like if you Google him, you'll read his Wikipedia page. It's a list of accomplishments, but it doesn't put them into context and tell you how they connect to each other and what they're actually doing and what they mean. And what happened was, so one time I'm talking to one person doing the, interviews, and they say, yeah, he independently created dynamic programming. Like they just dropped it in there. Like I was like, wait, what? And so I researched that and I go to someone else and these are like giants in the field, right? And I talked to this guy named Michael L. Jordan. He's literally the Michael Jordan of AI. And like everybody's like, oh, he's the man. And he tells me, he goes, oh yeah, your grandfather, let's say it was a Blackwell approachability created the field of online learning and machine learning. It predicted it. And I'm like, what are you talking, and then another person, like all these people who are Steven Stigler at University of California says, your grandfather predicted AI, and I'm putting it all together, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And so I start asking people, and I'm like, did he is he like a father of the modern age? And they're like, yeah, so we put it together. And then so I'm digging. So what was his exact role in it? And what makes him unique and interesting, a lot of things, but one of it is that he worked in so many different fields, and he created this foundational work. But when you look at it all, what he's focusing in is how to make better decisions when you have a little information and things keep changing, right? And that's like what you guys do and what your audience wants. And what he was really focused on is how to make better decisions so you could have a better life. And he went from discipline to discipline and looked at work and tried to figure out how to do that. And what he would do is, when people talk about first principles, he would say, this is the problem. He would strip it back, and he would come up with these most simple and elegant theorems that they can be applied across anything: financial modeling, AI, predictive patient analysis, automatic, driverless cars, all these things, is this spam? What should you buy or sell? Like all these things, notwithstanding, Ian, discipline. You got to have discipline first when you buy or sell. I heard you talking about that earlier. But notwithstanding that, just the judgment of like when to do it, how to do it. So he actually created formulas on how you carry things out, and so that you can keep learning. And so what they do is they use his formulas to figure out like what's the most likely thing to happen when you get new information.
It's interesting because before we ever met in person, like I knew when I saw you, that's her, right? Because when we talk about legacy, I think the Blackwell legacy at Nvidia will live on forever. It's during its era, Nvidia becomes the largest market cap in the history of a U.S. company, right? It got up to $5 billion in growth. I wonder now, right? Because as you're learning about your grandfather, being a mother now, having children, what is it like for the family dynamic as you're all uncovering what your grandfather has contributed from a standpoint of the past, but now going into the future about teaching the next generation of Blackwell, the family? What has that been like for you?
It's so much fun. It's so much fun. Yeah. So I have a little girl, and she's 7. And, being able to, because she's here with me with the documentary. She's like, how's it going, Mommy? Are you, how's your movie coming? And what did you learn about Grandpa? And I was like, well, he did this and he did. And so she's learning as I'm learning. I will say that. And, here's something that's been really interesting. So my grandfather never had any awards in the house. He got plenty of accolades. He had honorary degrees. He had this and that. He had never had any awards in the house of his own. He put up his kids' awards, but never any of his. And so it was kind of interesting because I never really knew that he was even an important mathematician. I knew he taught complicated math at the university around the corner, right? It was a lot of smart people doing complicated math, and he was one of them. That's how I kind of thought of it. So it's been really interesting also to see the ways Black people had to survive, not to be a tall tree. You don't want to get chopped down, right? And that modesty, obscuring your greatness from others, you also kind of obscure it from yourself and your family. So one of the things that this has allowed us to do, or me to do, or our family to do, is to like unleash a little bit, like be the Porsche you are. You know what I mean? Like unleash the greatness. And I think that can happen for every child, every Black child who sees this can kind of feel that inside of them. You know what I mean? Don't you remember when you're in school and you're learning all this stuff and it's like white, and there's a little something about Black people and something, and it gives you a little extra, and so that's what it's done for my family, but I also think it'll do it for a lot of other people too.
Yeah.
Indeed.
We talk a lot about generational wealth as a theme of the show, but in terms of generational intellect, what are some lessons that you are now learning about your grandfather? Are you now passing down to your daughter?
Oh yeah, there's some really good ones. But I want to also say about intergenerational wealth. Ian, when you say you got to hold on, 100%. Anyway, that's what I learned from my grandfather. He
Thank
taught
you.
us early on. Yes, he taught us early on that you hold it and you save, and it's not glamorous. It's it's numbers, and you got to hold on. It's time. A lot of it is
Time
time.
invested. Yep.
Time invested. And I talked to my aunt the other day. Do you know she still has the same Charles Schwab account my grandfather and grandmother opened up, like, I don't know, 60 years ago?
Wow.
I thought you'd
Thank
like
you.
that.
That's
I thought you would like
incredible.
that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I thought so. I was like, wow. She's like, yeah, I've kept
Mhm.
it going. It works really nice,
60 years in. Ooh.
Yeah, like, that's exciting, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but I would say so. There's a lot of things that I'm learning from him, from digging into his legacy, and it is a way of being and a way of doing things. And some of it is just as kindness and decency. I mean, I'd like to think I was kind and decent in general, but also what that pays forward. You guys are talking about relationships, what that pays forward in your life. That also has a compounding effect, right? Some of what I'm benefiting from now in doing this film is goodwill that he planted years and years and years ago. I'm learning about the art of simplicity. His theorems were so elegant and simple that they became widely applicable. It's like your white shirt. And that is something that, sometimes I just like, what is the most simple? Strip it down to its barest essential thing. If you can get it to the core, you can solve anything and make anything from there, right? And understanding that, things don't stay the same, right? You have to be ready to be a little dynamic and be nimble, and then his idea that, other people are going to have problems with you. Those are their problems, not your problems.
Well, talk about the film. I know you're raising capital for it, right? So explain
Yeah.
that in the whole process.
So have, let's see, three different sort of ways that we're raising money. And one of them has been through sort of institutions that he has been instrumental in building, right? So we're talking to UC Berkeley, where he co-founded their statistics department. We're talking to Stanford. We're talking to the mathematical societies, people like that, to bring us money. We're talking to friends and family, which I would include you all in, people who I think who are aligned, like just aligned. And we're talking to high net worth individuals and corporations. And while all of those groups are really important for me, the more that we are able to raise our money with the people I think of as friends and family, the better, because it gives you the most sort of autonomy to tell the story. It also is very reinforcing because, typically a documentary like mine would go to get grants. Well, the word Black is now illegal. You like, literally, there's a list of do not write down words in your grant, like equity, Black, women, like you can't. And I'm like, well, I can't write down he's Black. I can't write down, so those are no longer options for us. So this idea that you have to hustle and have an entrepreneurial mindset to get it done, because right now we know that there's forces that don't want us to succeed, don't want our stories to be told. So we got to, find other ways to tell them. So that's how we're raising money. We have a website. We have a fiscal, what do you call it? A nonprofit fiscal sponsor. So any donations that are made are tax deductible. And yeah.
What's the website?
Oh, gameofgeniusfilm.com.
Gameofgeniusfilm.com.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Lisa, we want to thank you for coming on.
Yes,
I encourage everybody to chip in because
support. Yes,
100%.
It's important. It's an important story to be told. And if we don't tell our stories, who's going to tell them? Who really is going to tell them? So I thank you for coming on, and we'll definitely be in contact. And thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you guys so much. It's a real pleasure.
Noel. Thank you, Noel. I'm going to give you guys a call after the show. We had an interesting dinner the other night. There were some people who want to see the trailer that you guys have put together, which is incredible. So I'll give you a call. Some exciting stuff is happening.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much.
Of course. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right.
Man,
so you know what? And then this is such a amazing story. And then I see some people was like, well, Nvidia should definitely invest in it. Nvidia should definitely invest in it. And I'm sure they probably would financially contribute to it. But, Steve Stout said something that was vitally important before. So I remember when I first met Steve Stout and I was telling him, like, look, this person, he's a hero. He should do more of like telling a story. And this person should do more of telling a story. He's like, why? He was like, they got the success. That's not their job to communicate it. That's your job. Your job is to communicate it. So honestly, to be honest with you, I feel like Nvidia already did their part.
They did their part.
Nobody would even know who he is.
Yeah.
They named the most important computer chip in the history of the world after him. Now that gave us an opportunity to tell the story.
And
that gives everybody, we got to stop looking for somebody else.
For other saviors to fix our
savior. Then nobody is going to be our savior except for us. Any help that we get is appreciated, but it should never be expected. We should only expect help and grace and savior from ourselves.
And that was my point exactly. When the first conversation we had, I told her, you know what? And not to say that Nvidia is not involved, because they do have involvement. I said Jensen did his part. Like those exact words. I said they did their part by naming it. Right? They left the context clues, right? If this is education, those are the context clues. Now it's us to be, hey, we got to be inquisitive about this. Why did they name it that? Who is this person, right? It just so happens that this kind of came via email through a relationship that we had with one of our partners in Ghana, of all places. Ghana comes back into the story like, hey, this is lady I think you should meet. And I'm like, oh, not, like you said, this is our job. Like, we're doing it. We don't need anybody. We have a platform. We have an audience. This story is important. We talk about this company all the time. This company has made a lot of people who watch this show a lot of money. Some of you are millionaires from investing in Nvidia. The Blackwell chip is fundamental to that rise. Look, this is a story now that this is not just something you're investing in. This is a person, a family, a legacy that you're investing in. So yeah, we're doing our part, and there's more to do.
And I've already made you money. So you can't say, well, this is tight. I don't want to hear that. If I've made you money, yo, Ian, what can I do for you? Make sure this film gets produced and make sure it goes #1. Because we always will say, well, Sinners was great. It was a fictional story, though. This is a real life story. And look how much AI infrastructure has been created off of something that he created. And even when she was introduced to Nvidia, most people were like, I didn't even know she was black. I was like, what? It's like, okay, we need to fund our own stories and make sure that they sell well.
And think about the time of it, like what she just said, and we saw it at GTC. We talk about the work cycle of NVIDIA's GPUs, right? Like it went from Hopper and now it's in the Blackwell phase. But soon it'll be Rubin, right? It'll be the astronomer and it'll be that story that needs to be told. Right now, this story needs to be told,
This
and we're
needs
gonna
to
be
be
able.
told, yeah.
We're gonna be the ones to tell it.
And it's just like what Nip said, as far as, he said, remind of the stolen greatness. Remind of their strength and all the stolen greatness. This is a Black American. If you know the history of what happened in America, it's almost impossible. This is a Black American man in the 1950s. That's the forefather of artificial intelligence that nobody knows about. Because I was talking 19 Keys, you gotta it's a miracle on two different fronts. It's a miracle that as a Black American in 1950 that he even rose to prominence, as far as, because you gotta be a genius. You gotta be a genius to be able to be a forefather of artificial intelligence. But you also gotta have a tremendous amount of fortitude to get through all of the obstacles that you had to, because think about how many people was just as smart as him, but they couldn't get through the obstacles. So they just blacked out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you watch the movie Malcolm X, that's one of the things he said, as far as when Malcolm, he was working for a big drug dealer at the time, and he was saying that the guy was a mathematical genius because he never forgot a number. And he was saying, given different circumstances, he could have cured science. But given his circumstances, he turned to being a drug dealer because that's the opportunities that was provided for him. So not only do you have to be an extremely rare person to have the intelligence to thrive, but you also got to be an extremely different type of person to be able to navigate all those types of obstacles. He couldn't even drink at the same water fountain as a white person.
He was living in the woods as he's a professor at school with 7 kids and going to teach at the school down the street. Different. And just the humility, right? Like, not even for her to grow up and not really understand what her grandfather had done, just that he was a guy that was great at science. Like, think about what that does. I take great pride in knowing the story, but I take great pride in, like, everybody hearing the story tonight and people who are going to listen to this after. And now when mathematicians get brought up, this name will be brought up because it's that important. So that's how you keep legacies going. So if he was forgotten before, we got to make sure that he's remembered forever. That's our job now.
And then also, last thing about this is that, so yeah, it's pinned. The Game of Genius film. That's the name of it. So yeah, if you made some money in the market, man, give $100, man. $100 ain't gonna hurt you.
Go donate.
$100 ain't gonna hurt you. You done made a lot of money on Nvidia. You done made a lot of money from investing in stocks. Pay your tithes. This is the real tithing.
Absolutely. Giving back, to
with
that
all
family.
Due respect. With all due respect. With all due respect, because we talked about the Drewski's church thing. This is something that's actually helpful to people.
Yes.
This is your tithes. Pay your tithes.
And you've made money.
And the thing about it too is like the unfortunate thing is that I'm assuming, like, she didn't really know the full story until the Nvidia thing, and then she started the research. So even her parents didn't fully educate her on it, right? But that's because he probably didn't educate his children on who he actually was. And this goes back to, I was having this conversation about religion with somebody, and they were saying, like, look, you got to make sure your kids learn the religion, because it's like after 2 generations, they become atheists. And I'm like, damn, that's kind of real. But it's the same thing with success. After 2 generations, you don't even know, they don't even have any connection because it was never passed down. It was never passed down. They was never forced. They were never forced.
Yeah, that's right.
Because nobody really wants to learn about, scientists. You kind of like, I don't want, but you got to force your kids. Certain things you got to force. You got to force it on them.
We just had this conversation.
Because if not, if she didn't know about this, by the time her daughter grew up,
she wasn't gonna know.
It's gone. He's officially been vapor. How many people are
been
like
erased?
This? How many people have been erased from history by society, but also by their family, not carrying on their legacy?
Yeah, I had this conversation. I had this conversation with my parents 2 weeks ago, just about the time frame, right? Like, Christian's 12 years old. His entire life, he's never watched my dad work. He doesn't understand what work ethic looks like that I got to watch because he never saw it, right? We got to pass that down to him. But the same thing when we talk about generational wealth, it's the same thing, right? Like, if we don't pass down the foundations, how are they going to replicate it? It's very important. I was watching Will Smith's documentary, Pole to Pole, pause. And part of it, he was talking about traditions and how things get passed down, like grandmother, things that she taught him, and now he gets to teach his kids. And I was just thinking to myself, like, man, like I have to write a legacy, right? Like I had one grandmother, she passed away when I was 16, but I didn't have any grandfathers, right? Like I didn't have that to be passed down to me. And so now I'm telling the parents, like, we've got to create this legacy that you can pass down to your grandkids so this thing can go on. But everybody should be taking that inventory with their family, because that's how you get remembered. It isn't just like, hey, we go to the cemetery, it's a tombstone, and we tell these folklores. No, what is their tradition? What are the things, right? Or are we going to create the things that get passed on? I think everybody should take that inventory with their families and say, all right, like we're going to be intentional about this. And it could be something small. Hey, every other Sunday, we're going to do this as a family. Like we need to create traditions, create values that get passed on for generations.
And then that's another
And if
thing
you
where
don't do
wealthy
it, the
people
technocrats are going to enforce it upon you anyway.
Well, that's another thing that even with when you start to see wealthy people towards the end of their life, one of the main things that they do is start to name things after themselves. So you see a medical center named after somebody. You see a math wing of a university named after somebody. You see the reason why they're doing that is because they understand that's one of the best ways to keep your legacy alive is to have your name on something. Like your name could be erased so easily. Think about all this stuff. Like there's people, I just talking to my dad, I think he said like one of my great grandfather was a Civil War hero. I didn't know that.
There you go.
But it's like, that's why it's like, these people, they're not just putting names on buildings for no reason. They want their name to live. Because if you see the name, it's going to raise question. Who is that? What is he? What did he do? That's another way to make yourself live forever. Yeah. So there's so many different things that we're not really thinking about because the average person is just trying to survive in America. But it's like, it's so easy to erase history.
Yeah. And not to be dark, there's less indexing of information on Google now because of AI. It's easier than ever to rewrite history. You used to be able to go 1,000 pages deep into Google and look for something. Now that's not even available. They're rewriting history every day, depending on where the models are sourcing their information from. This is more important than ever.
And especially with the government now. The government now is they always try to erase history, but they're accelerating it.
Yep.
They're accelerating it at a faster pace. It's unprecedented what they're actually trying to do. They're trying to erase history so fast, man.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy.
Our history for sure. That's what I said. Look around your life. I'm just looking at these market cap companies, and they've named their companies after themselves. If you look at Hilton, Johnson & Johnson, right? Walmart. Right. Look at the schools that your kids go to. Like
J.P. Morgan.
You take great pride in saying like I went to Jefferson or
Goldman Sachs.
I went to this
Goldman
place.
Sachs, yeah.
Charles Schwab, a real person. Like the name is going to live on forever, man, and it's very intentionally done. We got to figure this out, and we got to tell our stories and create them.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen.
Real quick before we go, it's a big week, and I don't want to pretend like it's not. It's a big week. Tech. Max 7s are going to report this week, man. So tomorrow, interestingly enough, we talked about Seagate. They're going to be reporting tomorrow. Boeing, RTX, UPS. I know we talked about some of the defense stocks. Boeing, RTX, good ones to watch. RTX, for sure. Put that on your watch list. Wednesday, we saw a TSM report last week. Had a blowout earnings report. ASML reports on Wednesday. GEV, which we spoke about, they will be reporting. Corning. GLW, the ticker, which we talked about in EYLU, is going to be reporting Wednesday after close. We got the heavy hitters. We got Microsoft, we got Meta, we got Tesla, and not a heavy hitter, but definitely in the portfolio, Celestica. They actually had a nice little pullback the other day. They lost. Well, they didn't lose, but Google said they're going to be using other people's to help build out the manufacturing of their TPUs, which should kind of hit CLS a little bit. So they had a nice little pullback, but they did add Broadcom during the quarter. So make sure that's on your watch list. And then we got Thursday, Caterpillar, MasterCard, and after closing, we got Apple, Visa, Western Digital, and SanDisk. SanDisk has
all
been,
5-year holds.
I got a lot of text messages about SanDisk. Shout out to everybody that executed on that. It'll be interesting. You know, they debuted in February of last year, obviously as a spinoff from Western Digital. So they'll report. So let's watch out for that. And then Friday we got Amex. SoFi, I know everybody wants to talk about SoFi. And then we got the gas companies. We got Chevron and Exxon reporting as well. So big week for earnings. I know I didn't say NVIDIA. NVIDIA will report on February 25th. AMD is next week, and we got a few others. But those are the big ones for this week.
Nvidia, AMD hold, Chevron, ExxonMobil hold for 5 years if you want to be wealthy. And if you don't, whatever happens to you, you deserve that. But everybody's locked in for the next 5 or 6 years. I'm being honest. Now is not the time for political correctness. Cost of things are going to continue to go up, and the gap is going to get closer and smaller than ever. And some of the prices of these companies are running up so much so. Okay. Somebody was disappointed that we got the 5,200 on gold so fast and say, why don't you just make the target 7,000? That tells you how much risk is sitting in the market. A, say thank you, for one. B, if silver and gold are this valuable, which also destroys MicroStrategy, which we'll talk about next week, look how much risk is sitting on the table. Now is not the time to play games. All them conversations about is 100,000 enough? In 5 or 6 years, we're going to be having conversations on 300,000 and 400,000 annual salaries are needed to be okay. It sounds crazy, but the way inflation is going, it's not that far off. It's not that far off. But do what you want.
Damn. Do what you
listen
want.
The first
I'm
time.
looking at this market cap. Speaking of listen the first time, Micron is in the top 25 companies in terms of market cap.
Yeah.
A year ago, they weren't even 100 billion. Now they're nearly about to pass. They just passed Costco, AMD, Alibaba, Palantir, Home Depot, and Bank of America, and they're right on MasterCard's neck. Interesting.
Yeah, right there. Meanwhile, Starbucks, Lululemon, Target, we're seeing some legacy companies die in front of our eyes, and we're like, oh, it's fine. No, it's not. No, it's not. But okay. Stay locked in.
We got a call from I had a call with the company that we spoke about. They were like, you guys are pretty harsh. I was like, we just got to be truthful.
Fix the company. Call me. Fix the company.
I'll tell you after this.
Starbucks, your number one competitor right now is Eli Lilly. You have no tech to beat Eli Lilly. Amgen and Eli Lilly are two of your biggest competitors, and you lucky Novo fell the fuck apart. Otherwise, it would be Espiritu Santo. PR won't fix it. The greatest companies on earth are going to thrive, and if you are marginal or okay, you're going to fall apart. It's a wicked time we're living in. Look how much money they're printing endlessly. Meanwhile, the big banks sitting on a silver short trade, and they keep pumping money into the repo market to cover up.
Your vehicle.
Hey, it's all good a week ago.
Market Mondays. You never know what you're going to get from Market Mondays, man. There's never been a show really quite created like it where you get real-time information on the stock market, but then, you get historical nuggets that nobody ever really knew about. Life-changing information, man.
Yeah.
Life-changing.
That was a proud moment, man. That was dope.
Remind so they strengthen all the stolen greatness. That's a fact, man.
Stay tuned. The stay tuned alert has now been issued. There's more things to come from relationships that we've developed. So stay tuned.
Adobe down 14%, Paramount down 12%, Hewlett Packard down 12%. It is no game. AppLovin down 22%.
AppLovin reporting this week too. Interesting story. E-commerce. Yeah.
All right, guys.
All right, y'all.
It's been real.
Love
Peace.
and love. Y'all be good. Wednesday, we see y'all. 9:00.